Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. Joining me is Tony Fratto, managing partner at Hamilton Place Strategies, to discuss how the Biden administration's policies could potentially impact the global economy and the United States' position in the world. Tony, as always, it's great to see you. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Thank you, Jill. Thanks for having me. Great to be back.
Are the chances of the election results being overturned still a possibility, or is this thing in the books at this point?
I think it's in the books. I think it's finally, I think we can finally say it's done, that the electors have sealed and mailed their votes, and so the election is over. I think we saw with Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader, congratulating the president-elect finally after this time. I think that settles it, and it's over. There's no real way to change the election outcome at this point.
Do you expect the administration transition to go smoothly? I saw something trending on Twitter this morning about supporters trying to create a Patriot Party.
I think that the transition is, I've been through a couple transitions, both coming in and going out. And the difference in this one is that, both of those followed 8-year terms with a change in party. Democrats were Republican in 2001 and Republicans to Democrats in 2009. Both of those, even despite the Clinton-Bush handoff, people thought there were stories about the missing W's from the White House computers and things like that. The transition actually went fine. It was choppy, but it was fine. It was an excellent transition in 2009 with a lot of cooperation. But you had a lot of new people coming into government in the Obama administration. The difference with the Biden administration is he has lots of experience coming in. People like Janet Yellen and others who have been in similar jobs and around the issues. Brian Deese coming in back to the White House. A lot of hands out there that are just a few years removed from being involved in these issues. So that will work well for them. I would still like to see a little bit more good transition in the trenches at all of the agencies, at HHS and Treasury, and the ones dealing with the really big issues, health and economic issues that we're dealing with right now. So that's going to be a little bit spiky, but at least he has at the top experienced hands ready to go.
What policies do you think Biden will focus on immediately once he assumes office?
Well, I think they're going to be in those two areas. First is the budget. They're working on this COVID relief plan right now. That's actually going to be, by the time this thing gets passed and is moving, we're really going to be talking about the first part of the Biden administration. So that becomes job number one, even though he's not officially sworn in as president yet. They're going to be dealing with the execution of this COVID relief plan. They're also going to have to go do a budget. Usually, a new president comes in. Part of setting its economic policy has to do with tax policy. Unless the election in Georgia changes and gives Democrats control of the Senate, we're not talking about tax policy. So that's going to be unusual for a new president coming in, not being able to do anything with tax policy. So it's going to be strictly on the spending side, on the budget, and how they get their appropriations done and where they allocate money for their priorities. And then the other part is the health crisis, which we're still, we're dealing with, and lots of hope because of the vaccine. But vaccine distribution is an issue, and how well that's done, how well it's carried out, is going to have a big impact. And there are also other healthcare issues. I think the other big issue that they want to do a lot with, even if they're not going to be able to accomplish big things legislatively, on the regulatory side, they have a lot of authority in things like climate, energy regulation, financial sector regulation, health and safety issues. We're going to see a lot of activity on the regulatory side.
Will economic activity get back to some sort of normal in 2021?
Well, it's such a great question. It's hard to remember what normal was in some ways, isn't it? Yeah, it seems like this has been a very, very long year, and it's hard to remember how we conducted ourselves as economic actors. And so I think some things are going to be the same and some things are going to be different, So the things that are going to be the same is once we get to some level of, mass parts of the population with vaccines, I think there is going to be a rush to have normal activity in the way that we were accustomed. People going to sporting events, especially the outdoor events. I think that's going to happen in the spring. I think people are going to be at baseball games, by late spring, early summer. I think those kinds of things we're going to see. We're going to see people congregating outside, especially in bigger ways, and a rush to do more inside. Restaurants are going to get some reprieve, even if everyone isn't vaccinated. That's going to get us somewhere back to the same. I think we should think of this as a transition year on some of that. And so that's going to seem normal. Some things are going to change in ways that have been accelerated because of this crisis. And those are the things. I was not a big TV watching streamer. I like going to for movies. Right, feature films. I want my popcorn. I want a dark theater. I want to be around other people who are going to laugh or cry with me to see a film, to see concerts, things like that. Like to do it in person. We know that we're not going to get back to the same level of activity on those kinds of outdoor experience or those kinds of experiences. People have gotten used to streaming. A lot of them like it. And we're gonna get back to some movie watching. It's just not going to be the same. Remote ordering of things like products and food. We know that we've shifted the curve on those things. We're going to do less in person and more ordering. People have. They enjoy, if you like doing takeout, it's even better when they deliver the food to your door. And those systems have gotten to be very good. The payment structures have gotten to be very good, very efficient. And we've all gotten used to it now in ways that a lot of people were not a year ago or 2 years ago. So I think those are going to be changes. And so some things are going to be the same. Some things are going to be different. You have to anticipate that when you have a shock this big, that some things are going to change, and that's what it is. But I think we're going to feel normal this summer. People are going to go on vacation, and they're going to start doing some more group experiences.
This is an interesting question because our relationship and standing in the world certainly has changed over the past 4 years. How will the Biden administration impact how the world views the United States and our partnerships?
I think what you're going to see is not the absence of conflict over issues. I mean, you're going to see some conflict go away on things like, he's going to rejoin the Paris Climate Accord. So we're going to come back to the Paris Climate Accord. So we're not going to fight on that. The United States is going to be a participant in the Paris Climate Accord, and that's coming. I think people assume that our conflicts are going to go away, and conflicts don't go away. I mean, the Democratic Clinton administration would have some conflicts with our partners around the world. The Republican Bush administration did, the Democratic Obama administration did, and the Republican Trump administration did. The difference with the Trump administration is that they actively pulled America back from engagement with the world. So it wasn't that other administrations didn't have certain disputes with the World Trade Organization or with the IMF and the World Bank or the World Health Organization, and lots of these multilateral institutions, many of which are of America's making. I mean, we made these things as we were trying to create the order of the world that best fit free market economies and liberal democracies. And so that's why we created these things to, create those opportunities for other countries around the world. The Trump administration walked away from those kinds of multilateral engagement and took America off the table. Sometimes in informal ways by just not engaging in certain ways, like with the WTO, and not allowing the process to work at the WTO for appointing judges and commissioners and eventually the head of the WTO, in some very formal ways, literally pulling America out of the World Health Organization. And that's going to reverse. And so what you're going to see is not, again, I'm going to just be very clear, there are things that Biden administration is going to have certain arguments with the world. We're all big economies with different interests and different needs and constituencies that express themselves in different ways, there will be certain instances of conflict. The difference is that we will be engaged in trying to resolve those conflicts with our trading partners, with our diplomatic and national security partners in a way that we have not been over the past 4 years.
All right, Tony, great to see you as always. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.
Thanks, Jill.